Hey everybody, I'm not sure what I'm going to do or what I'm going to do with this exact footage, but we're here on Jekyll Island, if you don't already know that, and we're stopping at one of the first settlements that was here on the island, the homestead of William Horton. So as you'll see here, William Horton was one of the first settlers in the area. He traveled with James Oglethorpe, who was the founder of the Georgia colony with the British. And Georgia was there to be a barrier between the French and Spanish settlements in Florida, protecting the much more prosperous South Carolina colony. And so that's why you get the stories of Georgia being like Australia, a prison colony. They sent, quote unquote, criminals here, but mostly those were debtors, people that owed debts in Great Britain that couldn't pay them, and so they were sent here as a way to repay or redeem that debt, as it were. But that is what remains of his residence, his family's residence. And you can see that these are maintained by the Jekyll Island Authority, which is the state agency that runs Jekyll Island for the state. So Jekyll Island is actually owned by the state of Georgia. A lot of histories we'll see here. We'll go in and take a look and see what else we've got here. And then I'll tell you a couple of funny stories that happened at this location. Not, well, it is history, but not this level of history. Some graffiti scratched into the walls. Looks like there was a bird nest there. Now that brick, I think it's a patch to shore up the wall. So you'll see here that this is made up of a tabby type, I forget the exact name of it, but they shells with sand and water, basically creating a cement. This was used a lot in coastal areas of Georgia and Florida. I think Fort Matanzas down in St. Augustine is made of the same stuff. It's pretty resilient. You can see that up there on the second floor there, and then they cover that with plaster. But that brick was not here originally. Again, I think it's part of the restoration efforts to help save the building. Actually just had another idea as I'm editing this video that brick may have come from the later family that occupied this home, the Binion family. And we'll talk more about the Binion family in a little bit, but it could have been that they did a repair in a later time frame as they occupied this home for many years after they took ownership. So anyway, just a quick thought I had. I don't know if that's the case, but anyway, just something that I thought of. So anyway, back to the video. Of course, people scratching graffiti on here, which is sad. Neat. See you here. You see where the fireplace used to be. Not there anymore. But, you know, for the time period, in the 1600s, 1700s, a very nice dwelling off the backside. Here, and got a few more plaques. Oh, and this tells you about the building of the home, and yep, that tabby structure. So this building we're just looking at, as you can read, is somewhere around 1743 is when it was built. It was apparently the second home here on the island. The original home was apparently wooden and burned by the Spanish after they were defeated at the Battle of Bloody March on St. Simon's Island, which is another island down here off the coast of Georgia, where the British basically pushed the Spanish out of Georgia and back down into Florida, whatnot. I'll put a link or something in the description, if I put this video out, to information about the Battle of Bloody Marsh, and there's talking about tabby as a construction material and why it made a logical choice. And it actually is quite a resilient material, as you can see from this building that's been here, survived hurricanes and storms for as long as it has there. But they also found at the fort there in St. Augustine that cannons, or at least round shot, not exploding shot, that was fired at it, would actually, the cannon balls would just kind of get absorbed into the wall itself, as if it was kind of soft and just kind of sucked it in, as I recall. There, been a long time since I've been to that fort in St. Augustine. See, we have a garden over there, the official historic marker that's here. And then you may have seen a sign back down that road leads to the pond where they got some fresh water, because this is right on the marsh, just on the other side of where you can see the gentleman are riding the bike is the marsh that separates Jekyll Island from mainland Georgia, and what's now over there is the city of Brunswick. So we'll go ahead and cross the street here and take you over. There's a cemetery and some other things over here we'll take a look at. Be nice and let me cross. There's the historic marker for the cemetery we're going to go look at here in a moment for the family, the Dubinion family, which is the ones that took it on after Horton. So here we have a little bit more about the history of the families that lived here and whatnot. I'm going to pause here for a second and fix my mic, which is flopping all over the place. Okay, anyway, so you can see that after the Horton family, that Dubinion, French native, settled in here, bought it, and lived here until they sold it. The Dubinion family actually sold this to what's affectionately known as the Millionaires Club, that we'll possibly see later or in another video. I'm not sure how that's going to work there, but gives you an idea of the history here. So we'll go down to the cemetery. By the way, there's some gorgeous trails throughout Jekyll Island for bike riding and walking. Here, that's what I'm out doing. I'm doing my annual bike ride, which if you go back through past videos, you'll see I've done videos, and you've seen this place before on some of those videos, just not in this level of detail. And then here we have more about Christopher Dubinion, the family that bought this after the Hortons lived here, and a little bit about the cemetery up here we're about to go look at. You see the walls around it to keep critters out, because there are a lot of critters. For those that don't know what the word critter means, animals. There are squirrels, there are possums, there are alligators, there are all kinds of birds in here. You can see the family. Now, when I first started coming down here, when I was a wee lad, this gate was open and broken, and you could get in. And actually, those three, I don't know what you want to call them, three tombs, they're graves that are raised up. And again, they're raised very similar to what you have in New Orleans, partially because of the water table here being so close to the surface of the ground, so it doesn't take long to get to water there. But those were quite damaged. They had been, you can probably see some of the new brick, they had been broken into, the tops were cracked, split, so they've done a lot here to fix this up and give you a better view of it up higher. You can kind of see better what's up in there. And then you see a few other graves back in the back there. In the back around that bend there is, I think, the remnants of where the warehouses used to be, where they would store the cotton sugar stuff that they were growing here in the past, right? So where those things were. I got to remember to keep the mic up because it's not pinned to my chest right now. I'm holding it. Okay, it's just gorgeous down here. I tell you, I love this place. Now we're going to go back across. I'm going to tell you some funny stories about some things that happened when I was here in the past. We'll get over there. Okay, so a couple of stories. For those that don't know, I actually don't know if I've mentioned this, but I used to be into historical reenacting when I was younger. And I would reenact things from the American Revolution. That's the American War for Independence, for those that may not know. It's where we decided to kick the British out of what's now the U.S. And then everything, all various battles and wars up to World War II and all. And that included the American Civil War. So here on Jekyll Island, there was Confederates that were stationed. There was a fort that's down near the airport, which is south of me right now. I'm kind of on the north end of the island where this is. And so there were obviously Confederate troops here. I may tell you more about the battery and stuff later, either in this or a separate video. But anyway, so as a result, we do living histories out here on the island portraying Confederate troops and Union troops that were here during the American Civil War. So we were actually camped out right in this area. That garden was not here at the time because this was, I don't know, 15 or so years ago. We're all camped out here. We were doing Confederate troops that were stationed here at the time. And it was also, the time frame we're here was prom season or homecoming season. I forget which one for the high schools in the area. So it was nighttime. We were all bedded down here in our tents and bedrolls, and we hear some cars coming up. And keep in mind, this was sometime after midnight. And they come rolling up and they park in that area that you see right over in there. And of course, this wakes some of us up, and we hear them whispering, "Oh, look at the soldiers, look at the soldiers, let's go scare them, let's go mess with them." Well, what they didn't know is that there were a couple of guys that were sleeping somewhere in that area, right in here. One of them, who is sadly departed now, is named James Wooten, was hearing all this, and what they didn't know is he was loading his musket with blanks. No, this was just straight black powder, nothing, no projectile, nothing that would hurt anybody unless they were really close. So he's loading up his musket while they're coming from there, getting out of their car and coming in like they're going to mess with us. And of course, several of us are awake at this point, but we're playing possum. That means we're not moving. And suddenly, as they get closer, and not super close, again, safety concern, Mr. Wooten raises up with his musket and fires it into the air. Those little teenagers, I'm sure that they had to change their underwear. They screamed. They went running as fast as they could, jumped in those cars and peeled off out of here as fast as they could go. they did not realize that we actually did have guns. We did have powder. Again, no projectiles, but they didn't realize that, I guess. And so we scared the living daylights out of them. And we all got a big laugh out of it afterwards there. So that was one great story happened here. Another story that happened here, this was actually before this. A couple of years before that, we were doing another living history program here on this site. Yeah, right in here. And all of this was done with the permission of the Jekyll Island Authority and the Historic Center here to do this. So they were aware. Well, apparently no one bothered to notify Georgia State Patrol that we were going to be out here and that we were going to be doing firing demonstrations. So again, shooting off Civil War period firearms. You know, firearms from 150 plus years ago, 1860s. Again, all blanks, no live rounds, but just again to give people an idea of what those weapons are like, what it takes to load them, you know, what it sounds like when they fire and all that kind of good stuff. So we're out here, somewhere up in this area, in formation, and doing that demonstration. And apparently State Patrol heard it, or somebody reported it, because in the middle of our demonstration, coming down from the direction that van just came, and then coming up from this other direction, state troopers come squealing in with sirens, lights, and all that going on, jumping out of their cars with their guns drawn, yelling at us to put down our weapons and get on the ground and so forth and so on. Which we complied. We obviously are not going to do anything to put ourselves in danger or, you know, the state troopers in danger or fearful for their safety. So we complied with their orders. And of course, it didn't take that long for them to realize, you know, what the truth was, what was going on here. And they had a good laugh. They wanted to come see the guns too, because they hadn't seen them before. And so, yeah, it was kind of a fun story. It happened. So a couple of funny things that happened here on this site here many years ago. Obviously not as many years ago as when that thing was built, but still kind of some fun things. So with that, I'm going to continue on with my bike ride. And I wonder if I can film that at some point, but we'll deal with that later. So there we go, guys. I don't know if this is the end of the video or not, but we'll see. And either keep watching or I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Okay, so I mentioned the warehouse ruins. Here we go. So this was a plantation. I know that word has got negative connotations for many reasons, for right or wrong, but it was a plantation for the Dominion family. And they did grow various things on this. And of course, as they were growing and harvesting, I think it was mostly sugar, but could have been rice too. Anyway, I don't know. We'll try to see if it says here on the sign. I don't see it. Anyway, maybe I'll look it up and add it. But here was where their warehouse used to be, where they would store that stuff before they would send off to market, or they would store other supplies and things they would need here, because again, they're on an island. It's not like you can just run to the grocery store and go get what you need. You had to have everything here and be self-sufficient, including a well there that you can see. They have graded off so somebody doesn't fall in there. More of that tabby construction. You can see maybe part of it back there as well. So this was the warehouse. By the way, this stuff hanging from trees is Spanish moss. If you're ever at a place, it's all over the south here in the US. Do not mess with that stuff. It is full of what's called red bugs, and you will get eaten alive if you start messing with that. Although, fun fact, during the American Civil War, some industrious folks apparently did figure out how to clean it and weave it into blankets. So the Confederate cavalry, at least some of them, had horse blankets they used under their saddles that were made out of Spanish moss. So that was kind of cool. Okay, so we will go ahead and call this a video, I hope. So I'll mesh all this stuff together, but I hope you've enjoyed the little history lesson. I know it's not my normal car content for sure, but the car is up in Atlanta and I'm down at Jekyll. I am working on the car. Hopefully we'll have a video out soon on some of the bodywork / paint stuff I've been doing on it, but we'll see. And with that, folks, thank y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye. Okay, so I'm going to tag this in here to the end. I know I said I closed it out, but not. So this is the Dominion cottage. This is where the Dominion family moved after they sold the island to what became the Millionaires Club. And you can see over there, well, maybe you can see over there, the main clubhouse area. This is the back side of it over there. You can also see, if I can get it to zoom in here. Oh, there it just drove by, but that old car, Rolls Royce or something like that is here for special events. Back here. Anyway, as I was saying, this is where the family moved as part of the deal when they sold the island to the Millionaires Club, into this cottage. This cottage is bigger than most of our homes. Sadly, it is probably one of the less fancy structures that are here, and maybe I'll do a video on the Millionaires Club later, but you can see. And then on the back here is the detached kitchen. You didn't want the kitchen attached to your house back in the day because, well, fires. And being a wood structure, wood and fire don't mix, or you could say they mix too well. And one of the sad things about this place is that it used to be the home of the island's mascot, Marty Jekyll. Marty Jekyll is a cute little cat that would greet visitors, say hello. He actually had his own Facebook page and maybe even Twitter and stuff like that. But he had his own charity to help raise money to support animals and animal shelters in the area, because there's a lot of feral cats and things down here. And so he used his fame to help raise money to support them, and he's still, even from the great beyond, doing that. Yes, he passed away earlier this year. Sadly, he was an older kitty. But anyway, so again, this is the Dominion cottage. Just wanted to show it to you here on Jekyll in the Millionaires Club, historic district area, whatnot. So with that, guys, okay, I'm officially calling this a video. We got a car in it though, right? That's good, maybe? Anyway, folks, hope you've liked it. Hope you've learned a thing or two. I'm a big history buff. I love history. So anytime I get to share stuff with folks, I enjoy doing it. So with that, guys, thank you so much. Keep watching. I promise more content on the Mustang or other cars is coming soon. So don't cut me on that. But anyway, guys, I'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks.